Let's talk about the game on Sunday. And we read where you've kind of tipped your cap to the 49ers defense in this matchup, which you think isn't getting enough play.
Well, if you look at the 49ers and how they played the last few weeks, and, you know, we always heard you win with defense. Everybody say offense, but defense. If you got a strong defense and that can keep you from scoring, then you got a good chance of winning the game. And if you look at what the 49ers are doing, they have a great offense, ball control offense that it's not a high-risk offense, but it does enough to keep the defense and their defense rested and keep the other team offense off the field. So once you do that, then you got a good chance of winning the Super Bowl. So I believe that as a complete team, I think the 49ers bring it all together. But I always say, but you know what? That doggone Mahomes, you can't bet against him.
Yeah.
You can't bet against him, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. You got to try to keep Bosa and Buckner, keep him contained.
Keep him in the box. And that's easier said than done. That's why I said that it's going to be important that the ends are upfield and the front pushes back. Because if you allow Mahomes to sit back there and roll a little bit to his right or to his left and no pressure, it's not going to be close.
When you played in Super Bowls, and you played in two-time Super Bowl champ, former Super Bowl MVP, the Super Bowl has always been a big deal, at least in my lifetime. I know in the 60s when it was Super Bowl I, II, Ice Bowl, that kind of stuff, maybe not when the league was in its infancy. But even back then, and here you are in your prime, could you have imagined the hype around the Super Bowl getting to the level that it is now, where it's 2 weeks of conversation and it's at the top of everybody's must-see list?
I can see where it has gone, because I remember when I was in college, I had a chance to witness the Steelers when they played out in L.A. when they beat the Rams.
Oh, yeah.
And Lynn Swann and Franco Harris kind of brought me into the award ceremony area where they was all sitting down and enjoying the win. And he said, I never forget this, Lynn Swann said, I want you to remember this in case you never experienced this. I want you to see what a Super Bowl win feel like, and this is what the family feel like. So he gave me a taste of that back in '79 when I was just a rookie.
This is what you're playing for.
Yeah, and so to see where they are now, based on what I saw with him, and then saw where we won too, it's where it's supposed to be.
All right, so
it's as hype as ever.
So big giant news. Eli retires. They get a new coach.
Yeah.
Eli, real quick. You spent a lot of time around him.
One of the best ever. A complete commander of men. I just love the way he played the game. He took his hard hat to work every day, and he played the game the way that his father, his brother, and all of us who played the game loved the way he did it.
So one of the changes, talk about how the Super Bowl's grown, and we just saw that photo of you in your prime. When you played 80s, early 90s, running backs were padded up. You had the bigger pads. You had the neck brace. The look of the player was a little bit different than it is now, right? Guys are more stream. Pad technology is different. And when we think about how our game has changed, how baseball has changed from what players looked like in the 80s versus how they wear their uniforms today. In the 80s, everything was tight. The jackets were tight. The pants were, the starter jackets were a big deal. The shiny stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, our game's changed a little bit too, but in football, because the pad technology's changed, it's a whole different game now.
Well, back then, the rules of the game made us look like that because you could hit any way you want part of the body. I mean, the head wasn't off limit. That were blindside shots. That were shots low, wherever you can take a guy down, you did it. They changed the rules so that they make the game easier and safer for players to play. So technology changed with that. But with us, yeah, I had the big show. I had lineman shoulder pads because I wanted to intimidate the people that was going to tackle me. And two, if you hit me and you was a lineman, maybe it didn't hurt as much.
But did that ever slow you down, the bigger pads?
Well, you can't slow down slow. You know, when I came out of Miami, I did run a 4.4. I must say I did run a 4.4. But as I got older,
say, you weren't that slow.
Yeah, as I got older, I got bigger.
Jerseys,
well, when I got to the Giants, I was already 7 years in. So quite naturally, I wasn't running 4.4, more like 4.6, 4.7. And my whole mindset changed because I became more of an inside runner more than a scat back. That's why we drafted Rodney Hampton and Lewis Tillman and those guys like that so that they can take the perimeter and just let me go up the middle and just wear you down.
So relating that to baseball, we've gone from somewhat of a speed game. We have a documentary out with the 80s Cardinals now, and then you're going to see the game today. It's all about power. So in that change in baseball, have you seen that big change in football as well? Has football gone the other direction?
Well, if you look at the way players train, they train differently than when we train. First of all, we had an off season. These guys don't have an off season. Like when I played, if my season was over with in December, January, January, I didn't do anything football related until May, which was enough to get ready to go to minicamp. And then after May, I wouldn't do anything until the beginning of July, right after July 4th. Then we had like 3 weeks to get in shape. So the game has changed so much that way that players are in shape year round, are trying to stay in shape year round. And the training methods are totally bizarre to me because I'm like, what was wrong with what we did? You know, I did the running on the beach with combat boots on, water that was up to my knees, running through that, running on beach sand, doing all that kind of stuff. That's how I train in Florida. So the technology and the method has changed. The way people take care of their body has changed. So everything that they're doing has been streaming toward 20th century.
So one thing that has not changed, prediction time. And I just got a little, I'm going to take the folks back. You've been coming here a number of years.
Yes.
This is what you've always given us. I'm going to get more this time. You know why?
Do you have any skin in the game for the Super Bowl? You rooting for one team over another?
You know what? Being that Bill Belichick was our coach back in the day, and, you know, you kind of like to see him do it again. I've been here, 5 times maybe?
Something like that, yeah.
Can y'all tell me my record? Like, have I? How many?
4-0.
I'm only picking. I'm only going with my coach.
We're still talking about the New England Patriots this week.
Again, right?
Again.
How crazy is that? It's hard to go against him and what they have done recently, and 9 trips there, 5-time winners. God,
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
All right, so you're undefeated. What's that? I think 7-0 since you've been coming in here.
Crazy,
you picked 7 Super Bowls in a row.
Wow.
But it's always Belichick. I'm not going against Belichick.
I know, right? It's
But
always
Belichick's not in it this time. Belichick and Brady are not there. All right? The heat is on. Who you got?
It's hard to pick against Kansas City Chiefs and Mahomes, but Mahomes really. Oh man, I'm gonna take a wild swing and say San Francisco pull it off.
Okay. The game's a coin flip in the minds of most people, right?
You like that San Francisco D, huh?
I just like everything that they do. Their ball control, their coach has some great ideas about trying to disguise things that look
Quarterback came from the Patriots.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I'm still there.
Hey, before we let you go, I want to take you back to one thing we stumbled into because we have this show premiering tonight on MLB Network, the story of the 1980s Cardinals. And you were a St. Louis football Cardinal at the same time that we slice into this baseball Cardinal story. Did you hang around with the guys on the baseball team at all? You guys shared a ballpark after.
Yeah, we did. Like every time we would be leaving the field, those guys would come out and play catch. They would take the football and play catch, and guys like Roy Green, who was an all-around athlete, we would go into the better cage or box or whatever and swing the bat around. And they used to laugh at me because I stood in the box with one leg out the box and one leg in. And they said, why were you standing like that? I said, in case he threw it at me, I could run away from the ball. And they kept saying, like, no, you'll be all right. You just got to stand in there. I'm going like, man, I can't do that. So I admire you guys for being able to do that. So
it was your favorite Ozzie Smith. Was he your favorite?
Ozzie by far was one of the most exciting players we had in St. Louis. You remember they did the trade for Gary Templeton.
Yeah.
For Ozzie.
Oh,
and when I first saw Ozzie and the Wizard, we call him, which everybody does call him that, the tumble that he does and the air that he gets when he does it, man, it was always something you wanted to see. So he became a friend, and we're still friends now, and we do a lot of golf together, and by far he's a better golfer than myself. But he just whoop on this one particular friend of mine named Willard Harrell. Willard Harrell just run his mouth like a jackrabbit as far as speed is concerned. But Ozzie owns him, and Ozzie, he said to Ozzie one day, he said, Ozzie, you run the why people were so afraid of Michael Jordan when Michael Jordan had the ball in his hand. He said, well, it's the same way you feel about me when I got my golf club in my hand. It's that fear factor that I'm going to toast your butt. So hearing those two guys go at it is always fun, but to go back and bring the 80s of what the Cardinal was back then, man, they own St. Louis.
Show's on tonight. The story of the 80s Cardinals, 8
Good
Eastern, MLBN presents. Ottis Anderson, good to see you as always.